usual, please don't take any screenshots, recordings, or photos of today's call without the express permission of the AGJC. And with that out the way, AB, over to you to kick us off.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Well, lovely to see you all again. Welcome to the AGJC's weekly Pre-Shabbat Zoom. Each week we gather together for the Jewish communities of all 6 GCC countries and our families and friends from around the world to hear an inspirational message before Shabbat, to light candles, hear a Dvar Torah from our rabbis, pray and read a section from the weekly Torah portion. The Association of Gulf Jewish Communities is the umbrella organization for the Jewish communities of the GCC countries that are building and enhancing Jewish life in the region. While each community is independent, we share a common goal and vision for Jewish life to flourish in the Gulf for the benefit of both residents and visitors. And I'm really happy, at least today, we've got the Matzah duo on, so I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, take it away, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you, AB. I think this is the first week I've seen you without an inside and without a cigar. So I don't know if that's the weather's getting
Ramadan,
too warm.
Ramadan,
okay.
That's what it is.
Well, the Ramadan Kareem to everyone.
Thank you.
So I think we're still waiting for Shir to join to light candles. So we'll do that later. And instead, we'll go straight ahead to Lechedodi with Alex.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody. And I'm really happy that the 2 Arabs are here because I think what they're going to share is spectacular. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamo bezacho bedibur echad ishmiyanu el hameyuchat Adonai echad ushmo echad l'shem al tiferet veletihila. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Nihikrat Shabbat lechuven elecha ki mekor haberacha meherosh mikedem nesucha sof maseh b'marshavat tchila. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Mihigdash melech melocha komitzei mitoch hafecha rahav lach shevet beyemek habacha v'hu yachmol alayich chemla. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Yahamim usmol tifotzi v'et Adonai taritzi ahal yadish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Boi b'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'betzala toch emunei yam segola boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala pnei Shabbat nikabela.
Alex, thank you. Now this week, we're delighted to be joined by Chazan Yitzi Spinner, who's got a special Pesach medley for us. So Chazan Yitzi, over to you.
Here we are. Good morning and good afternoon. It was actually a pleasure to meet some of you in person this week. Nice to see that some of you exist outside the world of Zoom. Thanks for the wave, Eric. I wanted to sing with you just a few songs here today. A few songs that I'm sure many of you know, but a few songs also that are very meaningful to me personally that we sing at our Seder table and in our shul throughout Pesach. So just a few snippets of some songs that might seem familiar, and if not, then always a great opportunity to learn a new song. Here's an Adir Hu that was popularized by Rav Shlomo Carlebach many years ago, and is always a staple at our table through the Seder. Adir Hu yivne beiso v'so v'karo. Adir Hu Karo bimheira b'yomeinu v'karo bimheira b'yomeinu v'karo keil b'nei v'izcha v'karo keil Another favorite that has been popularized over recent years, words come right from the beginning of Magid in our Seder. Beautiful song from Yonatan Razel. Vehi she'amda lavoteinu, vehi she'amda lavoteinu v'lanu, she'lo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu, amad aleinu lechalotenu. Vehi she'amda lavoteinu, vehi she'amda lavoteinu v'lanu, she'lo echad bilvad amad aleinu lechalotenu, amad aleinu lechalotenu. Ve'akadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu mi'adam. Ve'akadosh Baruch Hu matzilenu mi'adam. Hayen 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 hayen, da da hayen 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 ham, ya da hayen hayen da da da, hayen hayen ham, hayen 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 ham, da da hayen 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 ham, da da hayen hayen da da hayen ham, hayen 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 ham. Another melody that we love singing, we sing this in our Seder, we sing this in Hallel throughout the holiday of Pesach. And then, of course, who can forget the song that brings it all together, as we all just said, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim. Beautiful song. We love to sing at our Seder. No better words to dance around the table with the family than the following. L'Shana Haba, L'Shana Haba, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, L'Shana Haba, L'Shana Haba. L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim, L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim Hallelujah. L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim Hallelujah. L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim Hallelujah. L'Shana Haba B'Yerushalayim Hallelujah. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach, everyone. Whatever your favorite melody is, whether it's a Vihi Sha'amda or a Dayenu or anything from Hallel, anything from the rest of the Seder, make sure when you're singing it with a little bit extra joy, a little bit extra oomph. Chag Sameach, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Yitzi. Amazing. Great to get us in the Shabbat and also the Chag spirit. Now to introduce today's speaker, over to Raphael.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Raphael Schwartz, I'm talking from Kuwait. I'd like to introduce, we're honored to have Avi Zivotovsky and Dr. Avi Zivotovsky and Dr. Ari Greenspan. So Ari Zivotovsky was born in New York City and grew up in Long Island. He attended the academy. They're going to talk to us about their adventures coming to the Gulf countries to bake matzah. So I'm going to briefly introduce them and read their bios. Ari was born in New York, grew up in Long Island. He attended Hebrew Academy, Nassau County School for 10 years and studied in the yeshiva, Har Etzion, for 2 years. During which he met Ari Greenspan over a Kaporos chicken. They learned Shechita and received Kabbalah from Rav Sasson Grady and co-signed by Rav Messas. After several years hiatus from yeshiva, he returned to study for Semicha at Yeshiva Derech Aison. He holds a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and a master's in mathematics from Hofstra University in New York, an MEE in electrical engineering from New Jersey Institute of Technology, an MA in Jewish history. He holds a PhD in biomedical engineering from Case Western Reserve University, CWRU, Cleveland, Ohio. He did a four-year postdoc. He made Aliyah with his wife and children in the year 2000, and currently lives in Beth Shemesh. And he has been teaching in the Bar Ilan University, the brain science program. And he has over 50 scientific peer-reviewed papers, which is really outstanding. In the last few years, he has been a scholar in residence and lectured in numerous places for himself and together with Ari Greenspan. He is widely published in journals such as Tradition, Judaism, Jewish Observer, and there's many of these, and you can see here, they have actually, both he and Ari Greenspan have a web page called halachiaventures.com. Highly recommended that you look at that. It's quite remarkable, beautiful web page. Dr. Ari Greenspan is co-founder of the Petit Techelet Association. He is a trained US dentist practicing in Jerusalem. He is also a mohel. He is also a shochet and a sofer, and he has worked for more than 30 years on collecting Jewish traditions and Masorot from far-flung Jewish communities around the globe. amazing having all these things. I don't know how, in addition to a full-time job as a dentist is remarkable. He pioneered the exotic kosher dinner as a means of passing along disappearing kosher food traditions. He teaches matzah baking and the history of matzah, which is largely what we're going to talk about today. Frequent contributor to Mishpacha magazine, Jewish tradition, column in Jewish tradition on Otiyot, Children Hebrews magazine, and writes for many other journals. He has been producing commercial Judaic art for 25 years, enjoying wood, metal, and glass in his media. He also performs as a musician, nonetheless. Scholar in residence, he has lectured around the world for dental groups and for many synagogues and Jewish schools, such as many cities all throughout the United States, and in addition, various European cities, including Bulgaria, Portugal, Croatia, and also in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa, South Africa, India, and Israel. This is where he's been scholar in residence. Multimedia and hands-on presentations on exotic kosher animals, halakhic adventuring, and this is, you will see in the halakhicadventures.com, quite remarkable. I was very fortunate to meet Ari, Dr. Ari Greenspan. Unfortunately, the other Ari was unable to make it. They came to Kuwait to bake matzah with the community here, our family, and I will always be grateful for what they did and the generosity, their time to come. And we had such a beautiful afternoon, something that we will never forget, and something they will also never forget, because we had a bit of an adventure. And talking of which, Ari is really a true adventurer. He's probably been to more far-flung Jewish communities around the world than there are Chabad houses, or at least that you wouldn't find it, even a Chabad house. So I've seen on his webpage, he talks about Uganda and, the community of Eritrea, Ethiopia, and the list goes on. I mean, Papua New Guinea, some crazy places where he has made a difference, or that he and his and the other area that made a difference to the Jewish communities, either teaching matzah, or performing other mitzvahs. So I won't delay anymore. This has been already too long, this introduction. I'm going to pass you on to them to enlighten us, and thank you once again.
Hi, I'm Ari Greenspan. I just want to like to share my screen. Is that okay, Jake? Can you allow me?
Sure, give me 1 second and you'll be able to do that momentarily.
So Ari Zivotofsky and I have been baking matzot since we're about 20, 21, 22. We built our first oven when we were about that age, and we've been baking and researching matzah ever since. So what we're going to do in the hour and 45 minutes that you've allotted us is we're going to be talking about the trip that we had. This is obviously in Bahrain, and this is Huda standing with us. We made these beautiful aprons. I just want to say that coming to a different country and baking matzahs in the country requires a lot of organization. I just want to thank everybody who was involved. I'm not going to mention names because too many names will forget one person and we'll be in trouble. In any event, just to understand how we got to this point, Ari and I discussed with Alex just before COVID coming to visit. And then of course, COVID came and it didn't happen. And when we recontacted with Alex last year, he suggested that we might as well go to the entire Gulf. And that's basically what we did. So let's just get started very quickly because our time is very limited. So you should understand, machine matzah came about after hand matzah had been in existence since the days of our exodus from Egypt. And machine matzah came about because as the Industrial Revolution began and Jews started moving from the countryside and their small villages into the towns, all of a sudden they could not really produce enough matzah for everybody if they did it by hand. And that's basically what happened. And as we know, for the most part, machine matzah took over the world. And that's sort of why we wanted to actually come and do this, to show people that the traditional way of making matzah is still alive and going strong. Ari, you ready to take this?
Sure. But again, I just want to stress what Ari Greenspan said. And part of what we do, in that long introduction, you mentioned that we both learned Shechita, that Ari Greenspan also does Mila and Safrit, because part of what motivates us is that a lot of Judaism has become relegated. We outsource a lot of it. And so all Jews around the world eat matzah, and most Jews today buy their matzah, whether it's hand or machine matzah, that's made elsewhere. And we really believe that it's important for people to realize how it was traditionally done, and that these things are doable by us. It's not that somebody else does the matzah, but we could do it as well. So here we see in this diagram, the first step with is sifting the flour. The flour we brought from Israel, as Ari Greenspan mentioned, a lot of preparation, most of it done by you people in the Gulf, in Bahrain and Dubai and Kuwait. One of the things that we did was bring the flour, because the flour that's used in the baking of the matzah is a special flour. It's called matzah shmura, means it's been watched since the grinding. You see over here is the preparatory stages of the flour. And then on the table on the left, you see them making the matzah. All right, you want to, next slide?
Yeah.
Over here, you see all of the stages, some of them which we actually skip in the baking of the Gulf. But again, I just want to point out the flour we brought, the shmur flour, and that was one of the I don't know, hesitations, but we brought with us bags and bags of measured out ½ kilo flour that Ari Greenspan had measured out previously. What you see over here on the right side is the kneading. And as all of you who participated in the kneading and the rolling noticed, is that the batter that we use, particularly Ashkenazim, is a very dry batter. And that's why after the kneading on the right, in the middle stage is something that we didn't do in the Gulf, we sort of passed over. But traditionally in Ashkenazi matzah factories, there's a little mechanical smasher where it sort of helps knead the dough a little bit more than what's done in the hand. And after the smashing is then when it goes to the table where people roll it out into the traditional circles and then put the holes in it, as you see over here. And then in the back corner, they're putting it into the oven. Ari?
So just to give you guys a sense of what happened, we came with a bunch of buddies this time. They all wanted to come see the Gulf. On the left, the one in from the left is Chaim, who's going to be talking in a few minutes. And Huda went out and bought this little pizza oven, which was tremendous. The little shovel there on the left I actually had made for the trip to the Gulf, because the one that we have is much smaller. Here you see Ari Zivotofsky in Lila's house, Huda's mother. What I want to say is that we were excited to meet her because she's probably the only person in the Gulf that makes handmade matzah herself, and she keeps her Iraqi traditions going. And we thank her very much for letting us work there and showing us how she made the matzah herself. This is just
Ari, I just point out that what was important also is that it's all ages. I mean, we had Huda, who was baking with us, showing us what she's been doing for many more decades than us. And in Bahrain and
Lila.
In Dubai, Lila, what did I say? Sorry, Lila.
Huda was very clear that she's not been baking.
Has not been baking, not for decades and not even with us. But we had Lila, who's been baking for decades. And in both Bahrain and Dubai, we had many kids who showed up. Alex brought his kids. There were kids who came in Bahrain. And it was great to see from the 2-year-olds who were more excited to eat the matzahs right then on the spot to Layla, who was sharing with us her decades-old tradition.
So this is was really a beautiful oven. You can see the 2 matzot that are in the oven, and a little bit burnt, but I can guarantee you guys one thing: the matzah that you've eaten in your entire life has been made months, if not a year earlier. So you'll taste some fresh matzah, and it's a tremendous and a different experience. This is actually in Kuwait. We were baking matzah in the oven of our hosts there, and we got some beautiful matzahs out of that oven. And here you can see this is in Dubai, baking. What's the name of the woman who's got her hands in the dough? Can somebody tell me? I don't remember her name, but she was exceptional. She knew how to bake. She just jumped right in. Go ahead, Alex.
Her name is Liliane. She's actually not living in Dubai. She's from Belgium, and she came to visit.
Ah, okay. Well, she was a great help.
Just to bake matzah?
Yes. You are stars. People are coming from Europe to bake matzah with you.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so here you can see we're getting ready to knead. The process has to be done within 18 minutes. And of course, we want to use clean table surfaces every time. That's the brown that you're looking at over there. And here are the matzah team. You can see the box of matzahs in front of us. Now, what I want to share with you is something very, very interesting. In Abu Dhabi, you have that group of Yemenites that moved to Abu Dhabi from Yemen about a year and a half ago. This actually, for Ari and I, was one of the highlights of the trip because the Yemenites have been making soft matzah for time immemorial. And as you come to Israel, all of those traditions are forgotten because it's just much easier to get matzah that was baked in a factory. And these are truly the last Yemenite Jews to bake, to leave Yemen. And the tradition is completely alive with them. So before we came, we arranged for them to bake matzah. Now the matzah there is actually baked by the women. And you're about to see the ancient tradition and how it's done.
You see how she put her hands in the water?
So they use a much softer,
much wetter batter.
Look how beautiful, mamash beautiful, mamash.
This is literally keeping a tradition alive. It's virtually not done anymore in the Jewish world.
לכם זה נראה פשוט, אבל אתה מבין. זה מנהג עתיק.
So there you see the matzah just about baked. It was really quite exciting for us because we've been studying this for so many years. We've tried to bake soft matzahs in Israel. We've been to the 1 or 2 factories that make soft matzahs, and they're never as beautiful or as delicious as this. And finally, as we ended,
you're going to tell them you skipped the last part. It's much harder than it looks. Ari Greenspan tried to put one of the matzahs in, and it didn't quite work.
Let's just say it burnt to a crisp. And as we ended our evening, we made these matzot, and the organization was nice enough to print this beautiful little sticker that says the inaugural matzah bake in the GCC. And we thank you for your help and your time. And Ari Zitovsky is just going to sum it up.
Right. Basically, we just want to thank you for your hospitality because, as it was mentioned in the introduction, we have baked matzah in many countries around the world. We bake here in Israel just about every year, but it's not just about the flour, the water, it's about the people who you bake with. And it was really for us an honor and a privilege to get to meet all of you and to bake matzah with you, because the matzah is different in every place because of those who are baking it and celebrating. And so we look forward to being in touch, maybe baking again in the future. And we just want to thank you for your hospitality and wish you all a Chag Kasher v'Sameach, and hope you enjoy the matzah, enjoy eating the matzah that you enjoyed baking.
Okay.
Thank you to the two Dr. Aries. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to meet you both recently in Dubai, and to see the roundup of all the places that you baked matzah is remarkable. And I know that the experience that so many people had in the region of baking matzah with you will live long in the memory. So thank you so much, and wishing you both Chag Kasher Sameach as well. Rabbi Abadi, I know it's traditional on Shabbat HaGadol that there's a very special rabbi's address, so I'm very much looking forward to what you have to say today.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Rabbi and Rabbi Ari and Ari. It was a pleasure and an honor to have you here with us. It was a wonderful experience, not just for me personally, but for the entire community that participated. Chizku ve'imtzu, yasher koach. And it's certainly something big that you have been doing for many years. Looking forward for many future encounters and many future matzah baking. Maybe by next year you could perfect the Yemenite style, so we could taste those matzot here in the UAE. And yes, as Jake said, you know, this Shabbat is known as Shabbat Hagadol. And so many say, well, it's Shabbat Hagadol means the great Sabbath or the big Sabbath. And so some of the commentators, I think, facetiously, as they say that's because the rabbi always makes a big drasha, a very long and a big sermon. I'm going to spare you of that. Because I believe that Shabbat Hagadol, of course, there are many other reasons that our commentators and our sages explain. But as Rabbi and Rabbi Ari and Ari have done great things during their life with many communities, I'm sure if I ask each and every one of you, if you remember of something great that you have done in your life, and I'm sure many of you have not just one thing, but many things in your life. And doing something great means not just physically great. It could mean physically great if you are a sculptor or an architect or an engineer, but something great that really either has changed your own life or the life of people that you know, your family, your community, or the life of humanity. Something great that that really made a difference in people's lives, and sometimes may have even changed the course of history, even of one individual or a group or a nation or humanity in general. And that's something great that can be even written in the history books. Of course, some of those history books might be our own personal history books, our own family history books, community, town, nation. But some great things have been done in history that really were written in the history books of humanity. And of course, without those great things that many discoverers, scientists, philosophers, inventors have done, we wouldn't be where we are today. So, as I mentioned before, and as Jake mentioned, this Shabbat is known as Shabbat Hagadol. And the Shabbat Hagadol is because something great took place in history that gave it the name of Shabbat Hagadol. What was that something great that happened in history? Now, mind you, sometimes we do something great and we don't know that we did something great until later on in history we recognize that was something great. Until later on somebody comes and say, you know, many years ago when we met, you said something, you did something that changed my life and the life of my family or the life of my community. We don't know as we are doing it that it's something great, but in hindsight we learn that it was, or we see the consequences of that action. What happened something great that this Shabbat is known great? Well, as the great Shabbat, Shabbat Hagadol. Well, of course, one of the main reasons that is given is because our ancestors in Egypt, this was their last Shabbat in Egypt, the last Shabbat in which by then they were free of slavery completely, and they were getting ready to leave Egypt. And there was only one or two steps left for that. One of those steps was the Korban Pesach, the Paschal lamb offering, the Passover offering. And that Passover offering was meant to take a seh, right, a sheep, and tie it in a sense to the doorposts of their homes in Egypt over Shabbat, and wait until Passover Eve, which now we know it is Passover Eve, wait for that to come, the 14th of Nisan, and offer that animal. Now, we're told by historians that in fact, that animal, if wasn't a deity in Egypt, but it was, according to some historians, but it was something very revered. And here you have a group of slaves, the lowest of the social castes, the people that were discriminated against, take the deity of Egypt, something that is revered, tie it, and then slaughter it in front of the eyes of the Egyptians. That was something great. But I believe that that was something great for the people then, there and then, for the Israelite slave, for the Jewish slave, to see that they were able to take what was most revered for the Egyptians, and in a sense do away with that thing, and then offer it as a sacrifice to God. For them, that was a liberating feeling. And now we know for history, it was an event that changed the history of the Egyptians, even of the ancient Egypt, and certainly it changed the history of the Israelite and of the Jews at that time. And that an act that we still recall, remember, and commemorate, if you will, 3,334, according to some calculations, that took place then. Until today, we do call this Shabbat, Shabbat Hagadol, the great Sabbath, for that great act that was done, for that great miracle that the Egyptians did not attack the Israelites and not slaughter them equally as the animal was slaughtered, and for the great miracles that occurred at that time that really sped the exodus of the Israelite from Egypt. And that's something great that was done then. And it's something great that we, as I said, continue to commemorate and celebrate thousands of years later, and we'll continue to do so for possibly more thousands of years. So as humans, as Jews, we ought to try to always do something great to make a difference in people's lives, in our lives, in the life of our family, our community, our nation, our people, and certainly of humanity. We never know, that small act that we do might become a great act. Because sometimes, as I mentioned, when we do something, we may not think it's a big thing, we may think it's something very small, but eventually it becomes very big in history. So let us hope and pray that we are able to recognize and appreciate those moments in which we do something that we may not think to be great, but yet it will be great in the lives of ourselves, our family, people, and certainly humanity. Shabbat Shalom, or Shabbat Hagadol Shalom, as some people make the greeting. And by next week, we will not be able to have our Zoom session. So let me wish you all a Hag Sameach, Hag Kasher V'Sameach, a happy Passover, et tizku leshanim rabot nerimot v'topot. Shabbat Shalom.
All right, Badi, thank you. Now we're going to have a reading from a section of the Parasha, which Alex is going to do in Hebrew, and Chaim will then follow with the English translation.
So because before I'm going to start reading, I want to say that we're not going to be on Zoom, not only next Friday, but the Friday after that also not, because it's going to be the 7th day of Pesach. I want to thank both Aris for coming here to the Gulf. I think since I joined AGJC from its creation, this has been maybe for me the nicest initiative that we took, and it was amazing to see all those people, especially here in the Gulf, bake matzah with you guys. This is something I will never forget. So thank you so much. Chag Sameach, thank you for coming, and you're always welcome to come back.
Thank you.
Sorry, Ari. Yes.
I just wanted to say we will hopefully take you up on that. Thank you.
Thank you so much. וידבר אדוני אל משה ולאהרון לאמור, כי תבואו אל ארץ כנען אשר אני נותן לכם לאחוזה, ונתתי נגע צרת בבית ארץ אחוזתכם, ובאשר לא הבית, והגיד לכהן לאמור, כנגע נראה לי בבית, וציווה הכהן ופינו את הבית, בטרם יבוא הכהן לראות את הנגע ולא יטמע כל אשר בבית, ואחר כן יבוא הכהן לראות את הבית, וראה את הנגע, והנה הנגע בקירות הבית, שקרורות ירקרקות, או אדם דמות, ומראה שפן מן הקיר, ויצא הכהן מן הבית אל פתח הבית, והסגיר את הבית 7 ימים, ושב הכהן ביום השביעי, וראה, והנה פסע הנגע בקירות הבית, וציווה הכהן וכילסו את האבנים אשר בהן הנגע, והשליכו אתן אל מחוץ לעיר אל מקום טמא, ואת הבית יקציע מבית סביב, ושפכו את העפר אשר יקצו אל מחוץ לעיר אל מקום טמא, ולקחו אבנים אחרות והביאו אל תחת האבנים, ועפר אחר ייקח ותחת הבית.
Thanks, Alex. Chaim, over to you.
So I'm going to translate these psukim. I just want to say, if you read through them and if you listen to them, it becomes very clear that what this describes is not a physical illness of some kind, but a spiritual one. And that's why it starts with the words that this happens davka in Eretz Canaan, in Eretz Israel. And the tzara'at that we talk about is a spiritual affliction. And that's why the person who deals with it is not the doctor, but the Kohen, the priest, who has to say whether something is impure or not. And the Lord spoke to Moses and to Aaron, saying, when you come to the land of Canaan, which I'm giving you as a possession, and I place a legion of tzara'at upon a house in the land of your possession, and the one to whom the house belongs comes and tells the Kohen, saying, something like a legion has appeared to me in the house. The Kohen shall order that they clear out the house before the Kohen comes to look at the legion, so that everything in the house should not become unclean. After this, the Kohen shall come to look at the house, and he shall look at the legion. Now, if the legion in the walls of the house consists of dark green or dark red, sunken-looking stains, appearing as if deeper than the wall, then the Kohen shall go out of the house to the entrance of the house, and he shall quarantine the house for 7 days. Then the Kohen shall return on the 7th day and look at the house. Now, if the legion has spread in the walls of the house, the Kohen shall order that they remove the stones upon which the legion is found, and they shall cast them away outside the city to an unclean place. And he shall scrape out from the house from the inside all around, and they shall pour out the mortar dust from what they scraped outside the city into an unclean place. And they shall take other stones and bring them instead of those stones, and he shall take other mortar dust and plaster the house. So again, it's the Kohen ordaining cleanliness, ritual, spiritual cleanliness or impurity onto even a house, showing that the way we behave as Jews will have an impact on everything we do. It could be our bodies, it could be our other possessions, it certainly could be the houses that we live in and that are a center for spirituality for us as Jews. And thank you for having us and hosting us together with Ari and Ari a few weeks ago. It was absolutely amazing and incredible.
Thank you, Chaim. And we'll hear from you again in just a moment. Jean, over to you for the prayer for peace.
Thank you, Jake. It's my honor to read the prayer for peace, and this is adapted from Rabbi Nachman ben Fega. Lord of peace, divine ruler, to whom peace belongs, master of peace, creator of all things, and to pour and touch on earth, and to spread a great and wonderful peace over the whole world. Help us and save us all, and let us cling tightly to the virtue of peace. Let there be a truly great peace between every person and their fellow, and let there be no discord between people, even in their hearts. Let us never shame any person on earth, great or small. May it be granted unto us to fulfill thy commandment, to love thy neighbor as thyself, with all our hearts and souls and bodies and possessions. God, who is peace, bless us with peace. Wishing everyone a peaceful and wonderful Passover holiday.
Thank you, Jean. Chaim, back to you for the prayer for the GCC countries. Chaim, you're just on mute.
May he who gives salvation to kings and dominion to princes, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, who delivers his servant David from the evil sword, who makes a way in the sea and a path through the mighty waters, bless and protect, guard and help, exalt, magnify and uplift His Majesty, the King of Saudi Arabia, His Majesty, the King of Bahrain, His Majesty, the Sultan of Oman, His Highness, the President of the UAE, His Highness, the Emir of Kuwait, His Highness, the Emir of Qatar, and all their crown princes. And may the Supreme King of Kings in his mercy put a spirit of wisdom and understanding into their hearts and the hearts of all their counselors and officials to deal kindly with us, the house of Jacob, and all the people of this land. Be their shelter and stronghold, and let them not falter. In their days and in hours, may these lands be blessed with stability, prosperity, and peace. May this be his will, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Chaim. Yitzi, Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachi Hasharet, Malachi Elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Morchuni l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Teitchem l'shalom, malachei hashalom, malachei elyon. Mi melech malchei hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Shabbat Shalom.
Beautiful, Vitzi. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom, Chag Kasher v'Sameach, and we'll see you all in 3 weeks.
Yeah, just to reiterate, we'll be back next last week.
Good health.
Shabbat Shalom from New York. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, Chag Sameach.
חג כשר שמח, שבת גדול שלום.